Hey guys, how you doing? And welcome back to another video. So today I have a special video with a special guest, Shelina, my good friend. And so we're going to be hearing her testimony, how she's been a witness for Christ, and a bit about her life and and what she does. And so Shelina, would you like to perhaps introduce yourself?
Yeah, so hi guys, my name is Shelina and I live in Peterborough currently, working as a pharmacist, and originally from India, but I moved to the UK when I was 13 years old, and I have been living here for about 17, roughly nearly 18 years now. And yeah, it's great to be able to share and be a witness of Christ, just sharing what God has done in my life and how faithful He's been, and He continues to be till today.
Great. So like Shelina, what I like about talking to different people is like kind of knowing where they came from in life and the journeys that people have have been in and been through. And so could you perhaps maybe share a bit about your encounter with Christ and how it happened, and perhaps depending on how much detail you want to share, what your life was like before and then how it has changed encountering Christ?
Yeah, so I mean, I come from a traditional Catholic family, so I was baptized as a Catholic, and I used to go for Mass or Sunday Mass, but never really had a Christ experience as such. For me, Christianity or Catholicism was more about tradition, or just really to keep my parents happy. And coming from an Indian background, our faith and the Catholic tradition is it's something that's looked up to. It's something that we have to follow it. I always was a very rebellious person. So when someone tells me to do something, I will do the exact opposite.
Okay.
So many times I used to even be rebellious and not want to pray or do the family rosary. And then, like I said, I was 13 years old when I came to England, and that was a big shock for me, because I was coming from a completely different culture and background. And when I first started school in the UK, I was I had a terrible experience with bullying.
Okay.
Until before, I had no idea what bullying even was. And when I came to this country, some of the things that people made me feel was that I was a trash. I was not really valued. I started to feel really worthless as a person. Anyway, so I kind of started to focus on my education more, because I had no friends. I literally had nothing to do. So I started to realize that, I'm doing well in my studies. And so I started to, get better in my education. I started to kind of be known for being good in my studies. In that way, I started to kind of get some friends, and I thank God who provided that good circle of friends at that time. And I ended up going to university. So it was at that point when I encountered a group of young people who used to just gather in a house and pray. And initially I would go just because I was a student, and every Thursday evening we would have free meal. So that was my what I was attracted to mainly.
The food.
The food. Who doesn't like food? But what really, but apart from that, what I also noticed was that this group of young people accepted me for who I was. So for the first time, I started to have this joy that I'm not judged or looked down upon. So these people respected and loved me for who I was. And I also noticed these people had something different in them. They were always joyful and happy. So I started to tag along with them and go for one-day programs, and eventually I ended up going for a retreat called Dare to Go conference. It was the first national conference that I attended, that Jesus Youth had organized. And it was there that I had a personal experience of Christ. It was during an inner healing session. And I didn't know up until then what inner healing was. Adoration was just a time where I would just sit and look at this white host. But that inner healing was led by someone, and this person who was leading the inner healing said that, just jump in your daddy's arms, and he's loving you right now. And at that moment I remember just breaking down in tears, and I could remember God was showing me He was carrying me all this time, even though I didn't know that I was being loved and cared for from the time I was in my mother's womb. And I only got to know on that day that all this time there was a Father who was loving me and still continued to love me till that day. And that's when I started to have this person of Jesus as a real person, not just as a statue in the church. And from then it's been a gradual journey, spending time with like-minded people. Eventually I got involved in the music ministry. I started to meet more people and minister, and in that way God started to take me into a deeper relationship with him. So it's been a really beautiful journey so far, and I really thank God, that at that moment that I could experience Him, and I got to know Him at that age. God still has a plan for everyone. Sometimes people experience Christ in their 60s, 70s. It's never too late for people to experience Christ.
That's very interesting because when I ask people, their stories and their journeys of life, what I see in common is they find something in Jesus that they never had before. In the sense that you mentioned about your experience with bullying and the emptiness that you felt, that rejection. That when you had that encounter with Christ, it was as if you found a place in Christ where you're not rejected, where you're not alone.
And I still think sometimes we think, why does bad things happen to us? And when I was at that age, I was 13 years old, and I was like, why is God making me suffer so much? But now looking back, I think all of that had a purpose, that had a meaning to, and now, I think those experiences really taught me to stay close to God, and that my identity does not come from the fact that whether people say I am useless or worthless. I know my identity is in God, that I'm a child of God, and that is all that matters.
I think that's actually a very important thing that you mentioned, the whole concept of identity. Because unfortunately today we live in a time, don't we, where a lot of people find their identity based on the opinions of others, what people say about them, and it's so sad because some people feel like trash because they've been told that they're trash. Some people feel that they're worthless because they've been told that they're worthless, and it's a sad tragedy. And I think that is the beauty about our faith, is that our identity is children of God.
And for a little while, I started to do things to please people, and that wasn't giving me any happiness. I was just doing it hoping to be part of the gang, but actually that wasn't me. I was just being someone else, putting a mask on, and eventually I had to let go of all those things. It was a hard process, and and I think God is still healing me every day, because there are still times when I'd get certain times I'll get angry with certain things. I'm like, why am I feeling like this? It could be linked to what I've experienced in the past, and it's really, I think God has continued to be so good to me and patient more than anything else, still continuing to polish me every day. I'm not saying I'm perfect.
We're always
he's still polishing me every single day.
It's
still a work in progress, but I'm enjoying the journey. And one message I'd like to tell the young people is that don't try to be somebody else. God created you to be you. So be you, the unique, beautiful person that God has made you, His perfect masterpiece. And that's when we will start to really live life to the fullest, who God called us to live.
Wow. And so on the topic of youth and young people, you actually work a lot with the youth. So Shelina works for a parish in Peterborough, and she works with the youth here, and she's also part of the Jesus Youth ministry as well. So could you perhaps maybe talk about your experiences with the youth and how your life experiences have helped you to work with the youth?
So so initially when I became part of Jesus Youth, I used to help out in the music ministry, and eventually ended up being in the team. But as I started to minister to different age groups, I realized that God was calling me to help young people, to use my experience, what I've gone through, and be there to listen to them, to give them Christ. Because there was a point in my life when I was struggling and somebody else gave Christ to me. and I really look up to people like that. I still know of people when I was at university, some people who would call me every single week to some programs. At that time I didn't know why they were after me, but and then later on I found out that these people used to they were just people who were working, they were doing their daily job, but sometimes they would skip a meal so they could save money to pay for their train tickets to go for a prayer meeting, or they would spend every weekend planning, preparing for a retreat, and that was to help young people like me. So I feel inspired, and I also feel like it is now my responsibility, and also the love for God, to give that back to somebody else. I want to pass that on at least to another person. That's the aim, to at least give Christ to just one more young person. And so after that I took a year out from my work, and I went for full-timership. That's like a year voluntary work that you do in Jesus Youth. It's a formation year. So I was sent to Canada. And when I came back, God opened doors for me here in Peterborough, because I was certain after I came back from Canada that God wants me to be a missionary wherever I'm placed. And at the moment, for me, that was my home place in Peterborough. So as soon as I came, the parish priest approached me and said, will you help out with the confirmation?
So he came to you first.
So he approached me and said, there's nobody to help with the confirmation, so do you mind helping out? And I knew, I prayed for it. So just one more thing I want to mention, that when we pray for something, don't think that God has forgotten about it. When you pray for something that you want to do, you want to serve God, he will make sure that the opportunity comes and the doors are opened. So I prayed to God that when I came back from Canada, that God, where do you want me to serve? Show me what do you want me to do? And the priest approached me and said, can you help out with confirmation? So that was my opening to help young people. And it's been now 3-4 years since I've been a confirmation catechist, and it's been a wonderful journey, because I get to share about my Christ experience. So not just teach whatever we have been given, but at the same time back it up with testimonies, and that's what young people want. So from this confirmation group that we've had, so every year we try and retain some kids who wants to continue this journey, and they want to still continue growing in Christ. And from that we've now formed this prayer group where we come together, and we just spend time in prayer, sharing the word of God, and we have a nice time of fellowship. At times when we have in the summertime we try and do some activities, or we go out for a picnic. So so all these little things that we do, the aim is to help them encounter Christ in little ways. So that's the hope anyways.
And that's amazing, because I think with all the experiences that we have in our lives with Christ, it's not meant for us to just keep it to ourselves. But we're supposed to share it. And I can say for myself, because I've been to the youth group in Peterborough a couple of times now, and what's amazing is that some of the youth today, they are searching for Christ, and they're searching for Jesus. They want that encounter with Jesus, and you can see it in the youth. Otherwise, why else are they coming? It's because there's something that they want, that they can see. And with your experience as well, you saw with your university, was it university? Where those people there, the way they treated you, you saw Christ in them, and the principles that Christ taught was being lived out, and that in itself is quite attractive. And so when you then start to minister to the youth, when you start to share your experiences, they start to see Christ working in you.
I hope so.
And how Christ, I'm sure, and how Christ has changed your life, and how the principles of Christ is now being lived in you. And it's like they want a piece of that. They want a glimpse of what you've experienced. And I think it's just incredibly important today that we really try and share those experiences with the youth.
And I think more than giving, helping these young people, I think it helps me also, because it kind of gives me a purpose. When we have this Friday prayer meeting, there are many times also when I think that I should just shut everything down, because sometimes you don't see a lot of people coming, and then I feel like, okay, God, what's the point? What am I doing this for? But then I go for the prayer meeting, and I see, there's at least for those 2 souls, it's worth it. It's worth it, and I think that gives me a lot of satisfaction. Praying with them, having that time of fellowship, being able to share my experience, my Christ experience with them, gives me a lot of satisfaction. I've heard this saying somewhere that if we don't live for something, we die for nothing. And when I reflected on it, I realized that that's really important. When I am in my deathbed, whenever that is, I'm hoping that I can live to 90, but we'll see. But I'm thinking whenever I'm in my deathbed, I should be able to say that, yes, I have lived my life to the fullest. Yeah. The way God wanted me to live, not the way people wanted me to live, or the way someone else has told me to live, but the way God has told me to live. I've lived every single day to the fullest.
Wow, yeah.
And for me, that living for something is God. Because, I think if we give people materialistic things, that is just passing. People have gifted me things, my family gifts me things, but I get happy for maybe a week, maybe depending what it is, maybe a month maximum. But after a while, all that feeling of it dies out, that happiness dies out. But when I was given Christ, that is lasting. And I still remember, and I pray for those people, and I thank God for those people in my life, because that was the most important thing that I needed. If you have God, if we have God by our side, we don't need any materialistic thing.
Yeah. It's just that void, isn't it? There's so many people that have this void in their heart. Yeah. And this emptiness that needs to be filled with something, and so.
What do they say? It's a God-shaped hole that can be filled only by God.
I haven't heard that. Is that what you say? Yeah, I haven't heard that one before. No? Okay.
Yes, I was told that there's a God-shaped hole that can only be filled by God and no one else. That's why we always, we always feel that lack, because that was created to be filled only by God.
I'll keep that in mind. So there's this. On this God-shaped hole that only God can fill, and so people are trying to fill this emptiness with so many different things, and that's why you see a lot of people going from one relationship to the other because they want that fulfillment in the relationship, or they then look to alcohol or drugs, and it's quite sad, and that's why I think it's so important that those of us who have had that godly experience should then share our experience with others and make them know that that Jesus is the one to fill that hole. And I remember so one time with a friend who's a priest now actually, and so we went to KFC once, right? And so what he did was so we had our food, and then as we were leaving, one of the workers there, right, she was just minding doing her job, and so this priest goes and gives a prayer card to her, and then she's like, "Oh, thank you," and then we went on, and then I said to him, I was like, "Wow, that was amazing! Like, why did you do that?" And then he basically said something that really stuck to me, and it was basically like, if we don't do it, then who will? And
that's it's good. Yeah, it's true.
And it's very true. It's true, God has sent you there for a purpose. For that youth. And if you're not going to be able to give them Christ, then we shouldn't expect anyone else to. And that's why that's like when you talk about purpose. We live for that purpose to share Christ, to give Christ to others. That commandment that Christ gave his disciples: go and spread.
And like you said, it's not just in the church or in a prayer group that we need to give Christ, but it's everywhere. I think God has opened doors for me to be His presence everywhere. So even in my workplace, there have been times when people just come to my office and cry because they just want to share something, and I'm like, why are you opening up to me, But at that moment, God has called me to be there just to listen to that person or to just, whisper a prayer, even if they don't believe, just to say a prayer in your heart for that person. So I think God calls us to be a missionary in every place, wherever we go. But I mean, in my own personal life, even though having Christ, I must say that is still a struggle.
Of course,
we are all weak human beings, so constantly falling and failing. But that's why I constantly talk about the faithfulness of God, that despite my unfaithfulness and my ugliness and weakness,
Yeah.
He has still continued to be faithful to me.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of being so close to
That's
God.
it, yeah.
You know, someone once shared in this during this someone's Holy Communion. You know, we're having a party, and they said, "Hey, why don't you share some words of wisdom?" It was actually my brother-in-law, you know, and he said something that really stuck with me. So he shared to this girl who received Jesus for the first time in Holy Communion, and he said, "Just remember one thing: that friends, people, families." They're bound to disappoint you and leave you also,
Wow.
But one person that will not leave you is Jesus Christ, and
amazing.
you should make him your best friend. And I was like, wow,
That's very
I wish somebody had told me that when I was like a child, I would have
yeah.
kept Jesus more tightly to me. But no, I chose friends and so many other things over Jesus. But it's true, if you keep Jesus by your side, he will be in your darkest moments, in your happiest moments, in every moment, even in your angry moments, you can scream, but he will be with you.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Shelina. Thank you so much. Gosh, yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is actually the first time I'm hearing your testimony as well, so I never heard it before. So it's so interesting from my perspective as well to be able to listen. And what I just find amazing is how the Lord has been able to transform you and then use you.
Yeah.
I think that's something so profound and amazing. And when I reflect back on my life as well, just to see how the Lord picked me up, transformed me, and is then using me for his plans. And it's something that it's important to reflect on, I think, as well, because we sometimes also must remember how unworthy we are to actually be where we are right now. But God is so merciful and compassionate, and he has a great plan for all of us, and it's just amazing to see that kind of that process, that transition. And I only known you for how long? I think just since the summer. Like I've heard of you, obviously.
I've heard of you.
Yeah, but then we actually
through
met
a common friend. But we only met at the GC
through the
program.
summer, and so it was amazing, for all this while I've known you, to see what you do, and you are an inspiration. I hope you know that.
Thank you for coming, anyways, for our prayer group. It's been so like providential that sometimes I'm like, God, please send somebody, because some days I'm so tired to be able to share anything, and somehow God sends people like Darren to Peterborough to be part of the prayer group.
But
so thank you.
I'm sure, speaking on behalf of our viewers, that we wish you all the best with everything that you do.
Pray for me, please.
Of course, for your ministry, for your future and everything. And keep going, Shelina, and please keep us in your prayers as well. And if there was maybe just wrap it up with one thing that you would want to probably say, like one key advice or key thing, what would you probably say?
Yeah, I mean, I always used to share this this one beautiful message that I can't remember which pope it was. I could be Pope Benedict XVI.
Right.
But don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's one of them. So he said that when you allow Christ to enter into your life, you lose nothing, absolutely nothing of what makes life beautiful, true, and good. Wow. So don't be scared to let God into your life. Sometimes we think that if we give God a chance, or we associate with God, especially the young people, they think that they become automatically, their status is they're degraded to they become uncool or not trendy. Forget the trend, forget being cool. At the end of the day, we are all expected, or the aim is to become saints, to reach heaven. So that itself is pretty good and cool to look forward to. So these things of the world are passing. As you get older, you will start to notice that your friends will probably move out of your life. Families might move out, job might move out, your cool trends might fade out, but the one thing that remains constant is Christ. So never be afraid to let him into your life, and things will just be amazing.
Great. Amazing. Thank you, Shelina, so much. Thank you guys for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. It's always nice to hear someone else's voice other than just my voice all the time. So it's good to to be able to listen to other experiences, and hopefully Shelina's testimony and what she does inspires you as well to do something amazing, to have that enhance your relationship with Christ. Also, Shelina has a YouTube channel called Shelina Geddes. Yeah, her name. So I'll put the link down in the description below. So please do check that out. She gives good reflections. I think you also post some videos, songs as well.
Yeah, covers.
So covers. So please check all that out. Subscribe as well to her channel and share it as well. And yeah. So with that, have a great day. God bless.
Bye.